Tonight on Drew's Reviews, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. It's been years of waiting, but it's finally come to the Criterion Collection. What? Oh, 2018's Annihilation. This is the second film by Alex Garland, screenwriter turned director, and it's an adaptation of this book. Now, the reason I want to talk about it on my channel is my background is in screenwriting, and I'm very passionate about movies, but I'm also very passionate about narrative fiction. One of the things that is really challenging about adapting a book like this, even a book that's this short, is dealing with something called script economy. The way a lot of screenwriters will handle it is they will take every single scene from the book and shorten it. So you take something that, if filmed as is, would be half an hour long, shorten it to 2 minutes. Lovely Bones is a great example of a film that tried to keep every single scene intact, but ended up playing out like just one big montage where there was nowhere to land. Nothing really sunk in. Other adaptations that I've seen, Gillian Flynn adapted her own work with Gone Girl, and she took a lot of different scenes and just combined them and condensed them into one scene that represented a delegate for the story. Now, Annihilation, on the other hand, it's the third kind of adaptation. It's a kind of adaptation that just takes the premise, character names, and a few elements, really the feeling of the story, and tells a completely different story. And in this instance, that's not a bad thing. Annihilation is the story of a biologist who is tapped by the government to go into this mysterious Area X. This is an area that she is believed has been the victim of some kind of toxic event. It used to be a national park, now it's off limits to the public. What she's being told is actually, we don't really know what's going on there. All we know is there's some kind of bubble. In the book, the bubble's invisible. In the film, it's called the shimmer, and it has, the kind of effect of light going through a bubble that you're blowing. She knows that her husband was on a covert mission where he was in the last team to go in and investigate inside the shimmer. And he came out, and in the book, he immediately got cancer. Something different happens to him in the movie where he gets sick, and she believes going in and investigating might be the only way to treat him. Now, she joins a team of other female scientists. In the book, the all-female team is a strategic decision by the head of the team. In the movie, coincidentally, the most qualified scientists just happen to be women. Once they get inside, that's where the book and the movie really start to differ. One of the biggest themes of the book that didn't make it to the movie was hypnosis. In the first scene, once they're inside Area X, all of the women, they wake up and their tents are made, and they found that 4 days worth of food is missing. In the book, it was because they'd been hypnotized and made to forget something that they had seen by the leader of the group, Dr. Ventress. She has these verbal cues that make them behave and make them compliant. And the title of the book is actually one of these verbal cues. So I thought, clearly that's where the movie is going. No, there's no hypnosis in the movie, no verbal cues. Annihilation means something completely different. And yet that's okay. In both the book and in the movie, everything looks as though it did before, when there was a town there, when there was a national park there, but it's slightly off. It's like light reflected through a prism, but badly. You see several different kinds of flowers budding on a single stem. When they encounter a albino alligator, when they examine its teeth, it's got shark's teeth. It's got mutations. It's like a hodgepodge of other beings. It's like Area X is trying to emulate the life inside there. In the film, there's some true body horror moments where characters find worms inside of them, they find things growing out of them. In the book, it was less on the body and more in the mind. But she hears something inside of her, like an intrusive thought, and she has this debate about, what is identity? And it's a strong meditation on mental illness. The film has a lot to do with flashbacks. The dramatic element of this story really has to do with processing guilt. The book it's largely about processing grief. This changes the premise of the book quite a bit. This is something that was added to the film, and it really becomes the heart of the film. If you like the movie, you're gonna walk away from it. You're gonna think about the relationship between Natalie Portman and Oscar Isaac's characters and how that influenced both of their decisions to go into Area X, knowing that it could possibly be certain death. In the book, that decision isn't very motivated, and this is one of those areas in the film where I felt it was a real improvement. I also feel like the action, it had more weight. The supporting players had more to do, and they all had more arcs. The book was far more personal. It's written in journal entries from the perspective of the protagonist, very different medium. One thing I have to say about the film that it got right from the book, even though it wasn't adapting very specific elements, was the atmosphere. The haunted house that you're walking into when you choose to see the movie is what you're going for. You're going for these strange rooms covered in roots and possibly veins, these H.R. Geiger-esque displays of mutated bodies. And even the monsters have an element of that. Half the time you're not seeing anything. It's really what you're taking from your imagination and putting into that environment that makes it so amazing. I would have to say this isn't a good adaptation in a faithful sense, but it's a great film, and it's pretty perfect. It's gonna be something that you'll be debating with your friends long after you see the film. If you can see this in the theater, if you're in the United States, you can see it with a group. Unfortunately, if you're overseas, it's probably gonna come to Netflix, I think on March 14th, in which case, try to see it with a group anyway. It'll give you a lot to chat about, whether or not something literally happened, whether the narrator is reliable. There'll be a lot to debate, and you'll have a lot of fun doing it. This is a film that's gonna entertain you long after you've seen it. I give Annihilation an A, because it's the first vowel in the name of the film. And that is my criteria. Good night.